Okay, so I think I'm live. Let me try and get my manager so I can figure out how to actually share this. So I think it should be, if I just refresh this, it might show it live now. So I can click on this. Okay, so I think I'm right. It sounds like my audio is working as well, so I'm gonna go and click that, share it in the chat. Okay, Martin, just let me know once you've got this message. I'm gonna go and share on the Coder's Cavern just quickly. And then I'm gonna get started. So let me know once you can hear this, Martin. I will probably be flicking between the channel chat. Okay, so I think you're there, but can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Delay like 30 seconds. Alright, that's not great, but yeah, just let me know if you can hear me. And then I'm gonna go and show just quickly what the game looks like. So currently what I've done is I've built and lifted a way to play a card game. It's just a little bit of a reprieve and a break from what I'm actually doing. So I've built these other widgets, and I've got this sort of vision to have about 200 different playable widgets. So as I've shown before, like the way that the game interacts, the phone is a big component of the game. Yeah, so there's a whole element to that where you'll receive messages in game, and these are all the sort of different mini games I've got at the moment. So I've just added another one. It does take a little while to build each widget, but I'm getting faster, and so this is kind of a break. One of the things that takes a lot of time to build this is just the sheer scope of managing these animations programmatically. So this is what the card game looks like. I'll exit again, so it's just blackjack here. I'll click on it. I've initially just got blackjack going. The reason why this took me so long was to get the animations on the phone. I was trying to decide whether I want the animations to be on the main board, and yeah, I'm going to do more designs on this board. So what I'll look for is I'll look for something like this. So if I go like blackjack board, Google it. The thing is with those is you'll see like a typical blackjack board has this kind of layout, and so the dealer's card goes behind there, but it's a bit harder to animate that rotation in something that's sort of pixel restrained, like a game like this. I could do it, but it probably wouldn't look as nice. So we'll start a game off. So I can pick how many players I want to play with. So I'm going to pick 2 players. So that'd be me, 2 players plus the dealer. So 4 players altogether. I'll pick my betting amount. So I'm going to go for just 10%. So that's why it's £77, because it's 10% of my balance. So I'll click that. And then the dealer deals out the cards. So each person will introduce themselves as you play, and then the dealer will then take his cards. So the way so you'll notice that each person, like that guy just said he's gonna stick because he's got 20. That guy's William, so later on he's big in the game. So the way that blackjack works is the dealer always has one of the cards face down, because if they're all faced up, then there's no kind of mystery and it doesn't make the game as exciting. The way I've played this is you don't have to beat everyone, you just have to beat the dealer, but whoever gets the highest will get more of a bonus. So you can all beat the dealer and you can all get a payout. That is, I understand, that's normal blackjack, but in my game, if you get slightly higher than your competitors, you'll get a bit more of a bonus. So if you're the top out of 4 here, then you'll get a bonus payment. If you're maybe second, I might give us a little slightly less of a bonus payment. But if you come third but still win, you get paid. If you draw, you obviously can push all your chips in, or you can just get your money back. For the moment, the code that I've got is you just get your money back. but later I'll give it an option to push and then double or nothing sort of thing. So I've got what, like 13, so I'm going to draw. I'm probably going to be bust. Oh no, somewhere right there. So that went on to the next one, who is still under. I'm going to hold, and Eva's going to hold as well. Now the dealer's going to deal his cards, and the dealer beat us all. So play again. So that's basically the way the game works. You can go around and just play. I mean, it doesn't look that exciting. There'll be more games I want to add in, like poker and things, but the hardest work was getting this mechanism into place. So I'll do one more game and then I'll quickly show the code base and then I'll wrap up. So it's just a quick one. So I'm going to pick 2 players again. I guess I can pick no players and show you what that looks like. So it's just me versus the dealer. So there's nothing really special in that. So if it's just me versus the dealer, it's a bit easier. So I'll draw. Alright, so I'm on 21, so I'm going to hold. So I win, so I get decent money back. So I'll play again, because that was a quick one. So I'll play with 2 players again. 2 players makes it a bit more exciting, you should get a bit more money. I'm going to add more like taunts and things by the players, and more different players that can join the game and try and spice it up a bit. So I've got 16, I'm probably going to lose if I draw, but the chances are I'm gonna have to. So yeah, bust. And so that's me bust. So just play again. Play one more time. Eva's saying let's make this quick. Well, I'll try. So William's gonna hold. I'm gonna draw. Right, so the way is the game will pick the ace to match whatever's appropriate for your game. So it'll be a 1 or 11 based upon what is the most appropriate. So if it won't make you go bust, but I'm probably going to make it a point where you have to pick if an ace is if it represents a 10 or a 1. So I'm probably going to hold. Right, so that's that. I lost that one, that's fine. But that's how it works. So I'll exit the game, I'll go back to the chat, see if Martin's saying anything. No, he's not saying anything. But that's basically how the game sort of progresses. So I've still got all of, the smuggle run, the forex trading, the pool tabs, and I'm working on a new game at the moment, which is kind of like this money farm. But that's generally the way the things go. So the code base itself is pretty big. So this is the code base here. What I usually do when I write my code is I write features and I knock them off. So I'll write here, I had here, show contender 1 animation, and then I just delete them as I go. So I've got a few features left to do, which is if you draw, push all the chips in. So I have yet to put that feature in. So the way I sort of code it up is I use a class. So this card game class is called as part of the main class, which is game.py, and that's got so much stuff, right? It's so big, I actually have to set it up in a setup file because it's quite big, and even that setup file is referring to other setup files. It's quite chunky. I mean, the size of this, to do this game alone, took me about 1,000 lines of code. If you remove the space, it's probably about 1,100. But the way it works is I've got the main game, and then I'll set everything as these are all my initial default values, right? So stuff like this is the size of the window, and then the game could be locked if you maybe lose too many times or if you get in trouble. And then player complete flag. So this is to tell the game when each player's complete. One of the hardest things of this game was actually trying to know when a player's complete, because you can't just go round in a circle and say, okay, if player 1's complete, go to player 2, because one player might draw, another player might hold, another player might go bust. So you have to check all of those conditions as you go through the circle. And there's states, because each person's got an animation, and if you've ever coded up animations, you need to have timers and things. So then you've got states that are dependent on timers of different people, so it can get very, very messy. So the way I do the game is the main entry point, this is where I click on the widget to start it. And then once I click start, it'll actually activate the game, which will take me to this function here, down here. And so it just goes through the main logic where it'll start the game. It'll ask me how many players I want to choose, what the betting amount is I want to choose, and then it'll start the game. And for this part in itself, like this chunk here, is just the opening animation, right? It's a lot of its code. It's me basically flicking between pictures. So what that actually looks like is, it looks like if I go and open up here, so this is where my, just so you can see, this is where I sort of draw my characters, right? If I go into the cards, by the way, some of the characters I've used, and so for example, like this character is just a stand-in, and we'll get rid of that. This character as well, and so there are characters that I'm going to need to ditch and do my own. So this is the most recent one that I drew. Kind of tried to copy like famous actor, Jim Carrey, and that kind of came out alright. It's still pixelated, which is fine, and scribbly, but I'm not looking for anything amazing. So I think I've got a card deck here somewhere. So I've got, let me see if I can find them. In game screens, not that. Mocks. So yeah, this is the cards here. So I'll just click the card A sprite. So I've drawn them out. What my next step is, obviously, like hearts needs to be in red, like, but obviously because I'm going with a green theme, I'll probably change this, the color, maybe make them like maybe a lighter transition, something like this, maybe, or I don't know, maybe a color like this. So something to differentiate, because I'm still going with like the Game Boy Nokia color themes. But that's essentially how it works. So you've got a big chunk of code there for the animation, and it's kind of like, when it does it, it's flicking through these slides, right? So it's like going like card 2, then card 4, whichever card I've picked, and same with the characters, and same with the movement. So then you've got your main loop, and then this is the cycle. So each one of this is like the contender, each contender's code. So I've made contender 2 a little bit more passive, and contender 1 a little bit more aggressive in their dealing and holding strategies. And then so it then goes to the main player, which is me, or the player, and the player picks their stuff, and this cycle will just go round and around, and then eventually, once everybody has completed, it'll go to this reveal the cards. It'll reveal the dealer's card. The dealer will then play, and once the dealer has completed the play, this flag will turn to true, and it'll process the final round and wrap everything up. So that's how the game works. I just want to be nice and quick. I think that's yeah. See, we've got a question from Marcin. So he's asking, you could have the dude jeer you if you lose. Oh, that's a good feature, so let's add that in. So go to the top of my features. So I'll put that here as the third one. Add animation to contender 1 process. So I've done that, that's completed. So here is add cheering animation if you lose. Yeah, that's good. Now what else is Martin saying? How did you make the AI decide to hold or draw? Do you really want to see this? It's quite depressing. It's not an AI at all. It's really simple. See, when you code, just so you can maybe just to quickly, so it doesn't look like I'm a bad coder. If you go to like Mortal, or maybe I'll put it in here. There's actually a good one. So if I go Mortal Kombat 2 Unwinnable YouTube, there's a really good video here. Let's see, Mortal Kombat 2, very hard code. So there's a really good how to be. So it might be, yeah, here it is. This cheats against you. So I'm just going to turn it down.
Yeah, when it comes to,
so this, I don't know if it's this video exactly, but they might talk you through the code just so you can see. This is a good example of how you would write code here. Yeah, here we go. Right. So you can see this is in C++, no, C, sorry, C. They don't think they'd write in C++. So you can see like the way that, so this code, the reason I'm going to come back to this and not just show you it straight away is some of the code, even in games like Mortal Kombat, are like ridiculously simple, especially in my case where it's going to be like, it's a mini game of a mini game. But here I think you can see like it's literally just saying, if you're cornered, you know, jump, right? And then stock and close, right? So it's really, really simple. So mine's is not going to be much different from that. There's no reason for me to write a really complex AI, but I will add in more sophistication. I mean, might even do something now while I'm on here. So I've got contender, let's go to contender 1, right? So contender 1 basically has, I think it's contender 1 process, I think. Yeah, so basically we've got, I should actually comment this to make it so, if over 21 bust, right? And then I say if they hit 21 or 20, like any human, you're gonna stick with it, right? Like you're not gonna draw at 20, right? Very unlikely, so stick. Might add maybe a slight tiny chance that they would draw for this one because he's a bit more aggressive. So this is if underhand, so if you're less than 16. So with blackjack, there is a programmatic way to play. So I was watching videos from blackjack experts, and there's literally a blackjack cheat sheet. So it's things like blackjack cheat sheet. So this is it here. So I've seen this quite a few times. There's a really clear way to play blackjack. So like this is how you know this is all with reference to the dealer's card. It's a mathematical way of working out like your decision whether to draw or to hold, and will be mostly based upon what you see of the dealer's card. I've left that out for the moment. Well, actually I do have it in a little bit. So for example, I've got here, if you're underhand and you're less than the player and you're less than the other player, and I think I've not got the dealer in here, but that might be for the next one. So this person's competitive and wants to beat everyone. So if they're underhand, they're going to draw. And if they're about 16 or over and they're not bust, they're gonna hold. But I maybe make this one a little bit more dicey. So how would I do that? Let's think. So I probably want to say something like, if I'm over 16, so what I could do is just to make this a little bit more dicey, because this move is a hold, right? And we want to do one more draw because the person's quite aggressive. So an extra aggressive move. So I could say if they're under, maybe let's say, I don't know, we'll go for 17. So you're like at 16, right? And you're probably, we'll go, and you're less than the dealer, right? If you're under 17 or less than the dealer total, so I'm not going to say my total, I'm going to go for the dealer total. So this player wants to beat the dealer and is willing to take a risk, so the player will not hold. Think, where's the draw? So if under 16, contender to draw. So we'll go for this here. So no complete. What we're going to do is, and here I'm going to say the contender's chosen to draw if they're less than 17, if they're less than the dealer's total, or and they're not bust, yeah, and they're not complete, right? Because the complete flag is a way to stop, them from playing multiple hands in one round. So I think this will be a bit better. We could probably check it out. So this means that they're going to be a bit more crazy. I'll quickly go over the comments before I jump back in. Don't take a risk with under 16s. Oh, very good. Yeah, so let's see. So this must mean like dealer 1, contender 1's a little bit more aggressive. Contender 2 is a bit more passive. So you can see like if they're 20 or 21, they'll stick. But if they're under 16, they'll draw. But if they're over 16, then, or even equal to 16, they're just going to hold. So I think that's fair for now. Let's give this a run. So let's see how this plays out. So I think we'll find player 1 being a little bit more aggressive now and more likely to go bust. Right? So I'm going to draw. I'll hold the next round just to see player 1. So player 1's going to keep going. So Eva's not pushing her luck, but player 1 should go again. And it's bust, yeah. So player 1 is quite aggressive in this play because we've tweaked the code that way. So I could add more code, like, to make it more... it's not hard, it's just I'm not really that interested because it's a mini game, and usually these sort of things when you're developing, you come to polish later. Like this, there's going to be a lot more polish, and it's not something that I'll just leave and that will be it. It's just generally as a coder, I've got a lot of things that I want to do. So I've got my readme design, and so these are the things that I try to limit my backlog to 10. And then I've got my sort of bigger backlog here. So this is just like my backlog of items. There's like loads of stuff that I want to do. And so I don't want to waste too much time on cards. And also, like, I will add more functionality to make it more enjoyable. But at the moment, I think the core experience is there. The next thing is I'll touch up the graphics a bit, add a bit more players, and add a bit more, there's a little bit of diversity in what the players actually say, but it's not that much diversity. So for example here, like William, he basically picks from like these 3 statements when playing, and obviously I'll need to do that when being bust and when drawing and things. But that's basically going to be it. I mean, there's not like anything specific to the personality other than what I've architected. This is just a kind of static game for now. But my plan is once I get, say, 50 widgets and I have a lot of the game progression in play, then I'll come back to all of these and just tighten them up a little bit. But at the moment, I think they're kind of fit for purpose. But yeah, that's how it works, and that's the game. Pretty good he kept drawing. Yeah, pretty good he kept drawing. Yeah, I mean, it just shows you, like, but this code, let's be honest, it's not my greatest work. It's probably a bit of a disaster. I actually found myself, like, this I should have been able to code in about 700 lines in about 2 days. The problem is I didn't think it through. So this is a good example. When I first started writing this code out, I said, let's just do it for one player versus the dealer, right? A very project manager orientated way of doing something, like, oh, we need to get this in. Oh, let's just do the MVP. Don't worry about, the big end goal. We'll just add arms and legs as it goes. But the problem with that thinking, and this is why in a lot of big companies, project managers are really detrimental, even if they're scrum masters, is in this example, I started off small, but I didn't work hard on my design. And again, you find, like, in modern agile, there's very little emphasis into upfront early design. It's usually like a cycle, a PPT, and maybe some flow diagrams, and then everybody just jumps in and then adds arms and legs, and nobody's even working off the flow diagrams. I rarely see a coding spec. In fact, I don't think I've seen a coding spec in maybe like 5 years in big companies, in banks, travel companies, you name it. Everybody's just jumping in with software development and just working off of architecture. So I kind of followed. So this is the only time I followed the way I would do it at work in the game, and I fucked it up. And that was because I tried to start small, and then as I added the next player, the animations actually completely ruined the order. Because one of the things that you have to do with animations, I'll show you here, for example, right? So I've got a cutscene, but we'll maybe go to this transition. So you see, I use this card transition a lot, right? And what that is, we'll go into it and I'll show you what it is. You see, I'm using it at least 20 times, right? And the way it works is it needs to know, first of all, who's dealing. Is it the dealer, the contender 2, or is it me? And then what it needs to do is it needs to take a card and move it from the y and x-axis minus 40 or plus 40, and so it'll come in diagonally, right? So that makes sense. And it says, okay, if this is complete, which is where, say, the x value is the, so they think of this as the x offset. Once it's 0, then the x transition is complete. Then the y transition is complete if the y offset is 0. And then you can sort of say, okay, this one card is in, let's move to the next card. And then you do it again for the next. So if you deal in 3 cards, you've got to go through this cycle 3 times, plus the 100 times for each frame of the animation. So it's 300 times you have to go through a deck of 3 cards, and then you're having to save a lot of variables that are relevant to that specific player. And the problem is if you've got multiple players, multiple animations, and here's the key thing, different logic flows, you can easily get yourself in a mess. And that's exactly what I did. And I found myself like, I was basically just going through the code. I was just going like, play, and then it was like failing. I was getting like a crash, and then I was like quitting, and I was running it again and quitting, and I was looking at code errors, and I was like, and even like, I don't know if I've still got examples earlier, but like I was getting, unfortunately no, I don't have any errors, but I was like, basically it was falling over all the time, and I was like making tweaks, and so essentially I nearly got myself into a situation which is called haunted code. So it means that the code is doomed right from the beginning, from the architecture. But there are some cases where if you have haunted code, most haunted codes you can never fix, right? It's like you have to be a really good dev to architect your way out of a haunted code situation, and I kind of was a mixture of that and just a lot of persistence and trial and error and backwards walking. Like I had to backwards walk my way out, but I couldn't redesign because I basically restricted myself from the beginning. So that's a coding lesson that I kind of learned. Like when I work in my professional sphere, even though I disagree with that way of working, it's just the way of working that everybody's used to, rolling out MVPs, because they're not complex products, and compared to a game, like game development is factors more complex than most things that you'll do in, say, like a post office or for government, big banks, big fintech, FANG companies. They're just doing back end, front end apps, AI deployments, DevOps stuff. They're not actually doing things which are logically intensive. And so that might seem quite dismissive, but it is generally the case. I mean, game devs work a lot harder, and they have to deal with a lot more complexity. And so that's maybe a little bit of an unfair generalization, but it is what I see in my case. They generally have to deal with a lot more complexity and less scope for failure, so they don't work to MVPs. They'll work to prototypes, but they won't work to MVPs. So that's it. I'm going to wrap up there because I don't want to kind of like beat a dead horse. I just want to show the game. But yeah, pretty good. You kept drawing. Felt like that when I made your thing, coding yourself into a corner. It's very easy to code See, haunted code is quite not as common with what we call like your full stack web apps or applications that you deploy, say mobile phone apps or something that you'll put on Play Store, internal apps that your clients will use. Like all of that sort of stuff is managed in a way that you can just keep adding arms and legs. And this is why a lot of these big companies will cry about legacy, but they're all embraced legacy because to avoid legacy would require a lot more proactive upfront design thinking, building out logic, and it would force those who are non-technical to be brought into those discussions, and that's not what happens, right? So like we've got it's horrible segregation of silos in pretty much every company that isn't a massive tech leader, and I include Google and Microsoft. Like they're just as equally pathetic when it comes to trying to innovate on the products. They all build like they're building on legacy pyramids. So that's a bit negative as a way to finish it off. I guess maybe I could just talk about the next feature before I wrap up, which is this idea which I'm going to be calling the money farm. So I'm just literally starting, but the idea is you're going to get you're going to recruit. I wonder if I've even got that in the plot manager. Maybe I've got a wee bit there. But basically, you're going to take animals and like magpies and crows and get them to steal banknotes. And you get like squirrels and things to like steal jewelry and necklaces for you. And you build up like an animal horde and your own kind of like army that you can recruit, and then they'll start to become project managers. Make it quite funny. We're gonna have it like the birds will actually call you and they'll like squawk and they'll go like production low and we need more staff and things. And so it's kind of like building your own little anti-society army. So that's gonna be quite fun. But I'm gonna wrap this up just now. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave it there.